Top 20 Case Study Interview Questions and Answers. Case study interviews are a critical part of the hiring process, especially for consulting, finance, and strategy roles. They test your analytical thinking, problem-solving ability, communication, and structured approach to tackling business challenges. Employers want to see how you break down complex problems and propose actionable solutions. This guide presents the top 20 case study interview questions with detailed answers to help you prepare effectively and confidently showcase your consulting mindset. 1. How do you approach solving a case study? I approach a case study with a structured framework. First, I clarify the problem and objectives by asking targeted questions. Next, I break down the problem into key components using tools like MIS, mutually exclusive, collectively exhaustive. I then analyze data, identifying trends, risks, and opportunities. After evaluating options, I propose evidence-backed recommendations supported by practical implementation steps. Finally, I summarize findings clearly and concisely, ensuring alignment with the client's goals and measurable outcomes. 2. What frameworks do you commonly use in case studies? I use several frameworks depending on the problem. For market entry cases, I analyze market attractiveness, competition, and entry barriers. In profitability cases, I use a profit tree to break down revenues and costs. For growth strategy, I apply the Ansoff matrix or Porter's 5 forces. I also use SWOT and value chain analysis. These frameworks provide structure, but I adapt them flexibly to the situation, ensuring solutions remain tailored and practical. 3. How do you handle a profitability case study? For profitability cases, I begin with a profit tree analysis, breaking the problem into revenue and cost components. I investigate revenue drivers like pricing, volume, and product mix. On the cost side, I examine fixed versus variable expenses. I use data to identify root causes, such as declining demand or rising operational costs. Based on insights, I propose strategies like optimizing pricing, reducing inefficiencies, or expanding high-margin products. This structured approach ensures actionable solutions. 4. What steps do you take in a market entry case study? In a market entry case, I start by assessing the market size, growth rate, and customer segments. Next, I evaluate competition, regulatory environment, and barriers to entry. I analyze the company's strengths, capabilities, and resources to determine feasibility. Then, I compare entry strategies such as partnerships, acquisitions, or organic growth. Finally, I provide recommendations that balance risks and opportunities, ensuring the client can enter the market successfully while aligning with long-term strategic goals. 5. How do you prioritize information in a case study? I prioritize information by focusing on data that directly relates to the problem statement and objectives. I filter out irrelevant details and identify key drivers that impact the outcome. For example, in a profitability case, I prioritize revenue and cost data over unrelated financials. I also use hypotheses to guide analysis, testing them against available information. This approach ensures efficiency, clarity, and impactful recommendations within limited timeframes, avoiding information overload. 6. How do you estimate market size in a case study? I estimate market size using 2 approaches, top-down and bottom-up. In the top-down method, I begin with total industry size and narrow down by applying relevant filters such as geography or customer segments. In the bottom-up method, I calculate based on potential customers multiplied by average purchase value. I validate assumptions with logical reasoning and available data. Using both approaches ensures accuracy, providing a realistic market estimate for informed decision-making. 7. How do you structure your answers in a case study interview? I structure answers by following a logical sequence. First, I restate the problem to confirm understanding. Then, I outline a clear framework for analysis, breaking it into components. As I analyze, I provide insights step by step, explaining reasoning and assumptions. Once I reach a conclusion, I summarize key findings, present recommendations, and discuss implementation. This clear, structured communication demonstrates critical thinking, organization, and professionalism, which are crucial in consulting-style case interviews. 8. What do you do if you lack sufficient data in a case study? If data is insufficient, I make reasonable assumptions based on logic, industry knowledge, or benchmarks. I clearly state assumptions upfront and explain their rationale. For example, if estimating demand without customer data, I might use population size and average spending estimates. I also request clarifying information when allowed. The goal is not perfect accuracy but demonstrating structured thinking and logical reasoning. Transparency in assumptions ensures credibility and strengthens overall analysis. 9. How do you handle time pressure during a case study interview? I manage time pressure by structuring the case efficiently. I begin with a quick framework to guide analysis and avoid unnecessary details. I prioritize high-impact areas, focusing on data that drives conclusions. Time checks at intervals help me stay on track. If time is short, I provide a concise recommendation backed by key evidence instead of a detailed breakdown. This balance of depth and efficiency ensures strong performance under pressure. 10. What do interviewers look for in a case study interview? Interviewers look for structured problem-solving, logical reasoning, and clear communication. They want to see how you break down complex challenges into manageable components. Analytical ability, creativity, and data interpretation skills are crucial. Interviewers also evaluate your ability to prioritize information, stay calm under pressure, and make realistic assumptions. Ultimately, they assess whether you can provide actionable recommendations while demonstrating professionalism, adaptability, and client-oriented thinking, which are essential for consulting success. 11. How do you handle brainstorming in case interviews? During brainstorming, I generate ideas logically rather than randomly. I use structured frameworks such as demand and supply drivers to organize thoughts. I ensure breadth by exploring multiple areas before diving into depth. For example, in revenue growth brainstorming, I might explore pricing, product mix, and new markets. I also involve the interviewer by testing ideas collaboratively. This shows structured creativity, ensuring recommendations are innovative yet practical and evidence-driven. 12. How do you present recommendations at the end of a case study? I present recommendations using a top-down communication style. First, I state the main conclusion clearly and confidently. Then, I provide supporting evidence, such as key data points or insights from analysis. I outline implementation steps, risks, and mitigation strategies to show practicality. Finally, I summarize benefits and align them with the client's objectives. This approach ensures recommendations are not only compelling but also actionable and realistic for long-term success. 13. How do you approach an operations-focused case study? In an operations-focused case, I analyze efficiency, productivity, and resource utilization. I break down processes to identify bottlenecks, waste, or inefficiencies. I assess costs, capacity, and quality metrics to find improvement areas. Solutions may include process reengineering, technology adoption, or supply chain optimization. I also evaluate feasibility, implementation challenges, and potential ROI. By combining data analysis with strategic recommendations, I provide practical solutions that enhance operations and reduce inefficiencies. 14. How do you analyze competitor strategy in a case study? I analyze competitors by examining market share, pricing, product positioning, and value propositions. I also assess strengths, weaknesses, and customer perceptions. Tools like Porter's 5 Forces help evaluate competitive intensity and industry dynamics. I compare client capabilities with competitors to identify gaps and opportunities. This analysis informs recommendations such as differentiation strategies, pricing adjustments, or market positioning. By understanding the competitive landscape, I ensure clients gain an advantage in their market. 15. How do you test hypotheses in a case interview? I test hypotheses by developing possible explanations for the problem and validating them with available data. For example, if profits are declining, I may hypothesize falling sales volumes. I then review sales data to confirm or reject this. I continue testing sequentially until I identify the root cause. This hypothesis-driven approach keeps analysis focused and efficient, demonstrating critical thinking and logical structuring under time constraints. 16. How do you handle quantitative calculations in case interviews? I handle calculations by working step by step, ensuring clarity and accuracy. I first define the formula, then plug in available numbers. I perform mental math when possible but write out key steps for transparency. If assumptions are needed, I state them clearly. I also double-check results to avoid errors. Explaining calculations aloud demonstrates confidence and logical thinking, ensuring the interviewer follows my reasoning and trusts the final answer. 17. How do you deal with ambiguous problems in case studies? I approach ambiguous problems by clarifying objectives and asking targeted questions. If ambiguity persists, I make reasonable assumptions and outline multiple possible scenarios. I focus on structuring the problem to bring clarity and direction. For example, in a vague growth case, I might explore both product expansion and market expansion. Demonstrating adaptability and structured thinking under ambiguity shows resilience, creativity, and professionalism, which are critical consulting qualities. 18. How do you communicate during the case interview? I communicate by thinking aloud, explaining each step clearly so the interviewer follows my reasoning. I use concise, structured language, avoiding jargon. I summarize progress periodically to keep alignment. Visuals like charts or tables can also clarify analysis. At the end, I present findings in a top-down manner, starting with conclusions before diving into supporting details. Effective communication not only demonstrates confidence but also mirrors the way consultants present to clients. 19. How do you manage risk assessment in a case study? I manage risk assessment by identifying potential risks such as financial, operational, or market-related issues. I evaluate the likelihood and impact of each risk, prioritizing those with the greatest effect. I then propose mitigation strategies, such as diversifying suppliers, conducting pilot programs, or allocating contingency resources. Including risk assessment in recommendations shows foresight, practicality, and client-focused thinking. It ensures solutions are not only effective but also sustainable in the long run. 20. What qualities make someone successful in case study interviews? Success in case study interviews requires structured problem-solving, logical reasoning, and analytical skills. Strong communication, creativity, and time management are also essential. Confidence and composure under pressure help convey professionalism. The ability to make reasonable assumptions, prioritize effectively, and present actionable recommendations ensures strong performance. Most importantly, a consulting mindset, structured, client-focused, and results-oriented, distinguishes top candidates and reflects readiness to excel in real-world consulting challenges. Case study interviews can be challenging, but with the right preparation, you can showcase your analytical thinking and consulting skills effectively. A structured approach, logical reasoning, and clear communication are key to excelling in these interviews. By practicing frameworks, quantitative analysis, and concise presentation, you can build confidence and deliver impactful solutions. With these top 20 case study interview questions and answers, you'll be ready to perform at your best.